Good Thursday, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of Day 4 with the genius, Uncle Frank, talking about Mr. Frank Scalish. Frank, how you doing, man?
I am doing good. I have stories for you today.
You're lying to the fans already, Uncle Frank. You're not doing good. You're fired up. You're pissed off. You were telling us the story before. Dude, you got to tell that story.
I am going to absolutely get into that. I'm gonna. Today's show is going to be very interesting because not only am I going to give you a really good how-to on early summer cranking, but I'm going to get into ethics, angling ethics, because I'm mad.
All right, let's do this first. A special thank you to all the people yesterday, the BTL fans that showed up at Black Rifle Coffee. That was an outstanding day, our first remote, and we're going to be doing that more often, folks. We'll try to get out there to Black Rifle Coffee many, many more times throughout the year. Definitely a couple of times the remainder of 2021, and then our plans are to continue doing the remotes in 2022. So great stuff. It was nice to meet so many of the BTL fans yesterday, and James Watson did a great job, great guest.
Fantastic.
We will definitely have him on once again for the remote. The other thing I do want to mention, at the end of this show, I'm going to go into what we're doing next week. Next week, a little bit different, because, Matthew, we're going to have our one-on-one next week.
Yeah, we got to get some content out. I mean, you're able to stand on the front deck of a bass boat for a number of hours now. We're not afraid about you falling in and just sinking like a rock. So, Anyway, once again, Frank, you know this won't surprise you. Jeffries has finagled the rules in his favor. So usually it's, hey, we're doing the one-on-one during the spawning season so I can do it, or we're going to do the one-on-one so it's going to be overcast and misting. He's finagled it to where he feels like he can compete with the topwater bite, because he knows on 10 killer that this time of the year, he knows if those fish are deeper and it might require a spinning rod or finding them, that he's
or a Carolina rig and a big crankbait.
Anyway, so
we will talk.
Okay, so I have to redeem myself from last year where Jeffries absolutely obliterated me. Like it was
look.
4 pounds to 13. It was insane.
Wait a minute here, Frank.
Severely beat me.
Look, dude, I'm 1-8. Is that right, Matthew?
What have you done for me lately? And lately, you freaking tripled me up.
1-8.
But I mean, you're 1-0 since 2020.
There you go.
You're throwing the positive stuff out there, Matt.
Dude, that's
look,
priceless.
I'm not the tournament angler. I'm not the guy traveling around the country trying to catch fish and make some money. I'm just the old man.
Well, dude, us old guys got to catch them too.
I know.
You know what? I would love a GoPro with you guys in the boat. Just Frank and Mark.
Oh, it would be epic.
And we start the day off. Mark has to talk about the legitimacy of college scholarships for 30 minutes. And then someone cuts Frank off at the ramp, and then we just put 2 GoPros on and let you guys have at it.
No, you can't put a GoPro in my boat if somebody hole jumps me, because the language would not be suitable for children.
No.
Prelude to Uncle Frank's.
Yeah. No. So anyway, when we wrap stuff up today, I will go over what the schedule is going to be next week. We are going to have an in-studio guest next Wednesday, so we will go over the schedule at the conclusion of Day 4 with Frank. All right, Frank, what are we going to jump into today, man?
We are the Topwater Show that I had done on Day 4 with the Super Spook Jr. The video just broke on lurenet.com YouTube, the LureNet YouTube channel. The video just broke. That is very important for today's episode.
Look what I got. Look what I got. Look at that right there, folks.
I don't want to say what it looks like from my angle.
You have a you don't have a different you don't have a closer video.
I don't.
Mark?
No, I have
You gotta
one.
work on. Do not put one of those through your finger, please.
Yeah,
No.
I could see you
No.
just Chinese finger trapping that spook, and you're by yourself. I'm away. Frank's in Ohio, and you're sitting there.
yeah, I can't push buttons.
No,
I'm
I'm
totally
all
screwed.
good.
But look at that color.
No,
Color 7.
no, that is definitely going to be into play on Tuesday, Matthew.
It is. We're gonna have to dress it up for you.
Oh yeah.
All right. We gotta check it out.
Sorry I interrupted you, but I had to show everybody I have one.
I did. The way he was moving his hands around, I was like, "Oh, we're about to witness greatness." He's not gonna be able to tie his Air Maxes.
We're going to. Yeah, exactly. Then
Very funny.
Then I will do a tutorial on how to get a hook out.
There you go.
We're a Black Rifle Coffee Company doing it with Watson. I post a picture. All anyone wants to talk about are Jeffrey's designer rare shoes.
Well, dude, because he's styling and profiling, man.
That's
I
me.
have no clue. I apologize. I've made fun of those many times, like the colorblind special and stuff, but I apologize. I did not know that those were the deal.
See, I mean, you got to be careful what you say sometimes. You just got to be careful.
All right, back into it, Frank.
Okay, so back into it. So that episode of the Super Spook Jr. was going from them finishing up the spawn to where they were moving gradually to get offshore. So basically, I intercepted those fish in a transitional move. Okay, it was very critical for the Crankbait show I did a couple weeks later. So what happened was I went out to find these fish on crankbaits, and I wasn't sure how far off into summer pattern they got yet. So basically I did the same thing. I started in and worked my way out. Well, what I found was I was catching them about anywhere from 200 to 400 yards offshore, but still shallow. The particular crankbait show was, 4 to 6, 4 to 8 feet deep. They were offshore, but they weren't way out. They weren't on the real goods yet. So anyhow, I'm out there and doing this crankbait show, and here's the deal. I started looking at my structural elements, and I started fishing them, and I wasn't catching fish. I bumped myself up a little bit shallower, and then I started to catch fish. Okay, so I knew that my depth range was going to be 4 to 6. Had to keep my boat in around 7 to 9 to make the cast. Go ahead.
If you remember what Frank just described when we did the show, finding fish on the lakes, what he just described was exactly what he told everyone how to find those fish doing that method on that show. Mark was out of commission at the time, but that's cool because you didn't even mean to, and you literally just explained what you went to in that show. So go back and listen to that one, and you'll understand how Frank got where he got. Continue.
Perfect. That's perfect. So on this structural element that I was fishing, I fished for about 2 hours and I wasn't catching anything. And when I say I fished for 2 hours, I wasn't in the same spot for 2 hours casting. I was checking things out on this river channel. Okay. So what happened is I ran into the fish, and this was psychotic because they were literally 2 boat lengths. That's it. So 22 feet, 24 feet, 2 boat lengths, period. They weren't in front of it. They weren't past it. They were 2 boat lengths. So I got my camera, dude. I said, I got them. We got to get this show done. It's perfect. It's a perfect explanation tool. So we run out there, and what I did was, and here's the key. Whenever I'm crankbait fishing, I do this. I take lures that run the same depth. For example, I can take Norman middle end, okay, that runs.
I'm gonna blow you up.
Bam! I'm blown up.
All right, let's see here.
All right, so I'm gonna take. Should I take it out of the package?
Yeah.
Can you see that, or does it need to come out?
Is it less valuable out of the package, or are those readily available?
No, these are
I'm just
readily
saying,
available.
You got to treat crankbaits like you treat action figures.
Or like you treat Nike shoes.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm taking it out. All right. So I'm hooked.
There's the next shirt. I'm hooked.
I'm hooked. Just a prelude for, earlier. So the Norman middle end and the Norman deep little end. Okay, now keep in mind I'm fishing 4 to 6 feet deep. Both of these baits hit the bottom in 4 to 6 feet. Now the middle end will dive deeper, but it's a softer wobbling plug. It's a little tighter wobbling plug, so I could drag it down there without having to try to dig a canal. Okay. This bait, the middle end, has a wide wobble. So here's what I do. There are 2 baits going to get me down to the depth I need to get. Middle end, wider wobble, harder pull. Deep little end, tighter wobble, softer pull. 2 different actions on the same depth range. So then what I do is then I put on 2 natural shad patterns. This one happened to be lavender shad. This one happens to be lavender shad, natural shad pattern, lavender shad. And then I put a hot color out there, like chartreuse and blue, or tropical shad, which is like citrus. So basically I got 4 rods rigged. Okay. 2 middle ends, 2 deep little ends. And the reason I do this is because the bass are going to show you a preference. They're going to show you a color preference, and they're going to show you what type of pitch and roll and wobble they want. So I go out to the spot. First thing I do is I pick up the tropical shad, deep little end, fire it out there. I literally catch one on the first cast, but it's stuck in the side of the face. So I tell my camera guy, I said, this is perfect because this fish slapped at the bait. It didn't take the bait, it slapped at the bait. So I picked up my middle end in lavender shad, and I had 2 short strikes where they smoked it and they didn't get it. They hit it, they didn't get it. So I said, all right, let me throw the deep little end in lavender shad. I throw the deep little end out there. I catch one and he's choked on it. He's got the center hook on the crankbait all the way in his throat. I said, that's the color of the day. It's going to be that because they want that color. So we proceed to film, and I literally catch them every cast and double headers. I'm getting double headers too. So all of a sudden, well, I'm digressing because I'm getting agitated with angling ethics right now. So let me just finish the story.
This is great. We have story and info merging into one.
Yeah, dude, I'm like coming apart at the seams. I'm so irritated.
Like a piece of cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory. It's just culminating.
Exactly. So now, so here, understand what I just said. 2 crankbaits, same depth, different action. I got a natural shad patterns and hot shad patterns. Okay. The fish are going to show you a preference. Now, conversely, let's say I go and I'm catching them 16 to 18 feet deep. So I do the exact same thing. I take a fat-free shad number 7 and a DD22, a Norman DD22. 2 baits get me down to the same depth range, completely different actions. Fat-free shad is a harder wobbling bait. DD22 is a tighter wobbling bait. Okay? Different action, same depth. DD22 dives down. Fat-free shad dives down, DD swims down. Big difference. So that's what my approach is to offshore crankbait fishing. Okay? So now we go back to the story. So I'm out there and we are literally, I'm like excited. So I'm casting and catching and talking my ass off and I'm like having a day because everything I wanted to explain is happening perfectly until, okay, all of a sudden, and here, I'm the only boat on the water in the morning. The only dude. All of a sudden, here comes this dude trolling And I'm putting on a whack fest. And of course, we got the tripod pod up, and we're filming. All of a sudden, this dude makes a Yui, and he comes over and he trolls right over the spot I'm fishing to the point that I can't cast because I will hit his boat, which I did on purpose twice. Doesn't register with El Captain Moron.
We call him Walleye Willie?
Yeah, he turns around, trolls around my boat, and goes back over the spot I'm fishing. Now, keep in mind, I just said something earlier, key, 4 to 6 feet. I'm not fishing 18 to 20 because I wouldn't have cared, but I'm fishing 4 to 6. So he's taking all those smallmouths that I found, and he's making them scatter on me. So now I have to wait till they regroup and come to the structure. Only he keeps trolling around my boat. So I have an exchange with the man. Okay. And I'm going to just say an exchange. Of course, I made my cameraman shut the camera off and all the recording equipment. So guy doesn't compute. So I move. And I move to a place there's no fish there. I already fished it. There's no fish there, but I go there anyway. He follows me there and starts trolling around the boat. I make another move. He follows me there and starts trolling around the boat.
Jeez.
Finally, swear on my life. Finally, I'm far enough away from him where I can put my boat up on plane and go back to where I was, and it'll take him a while to get to me because he's trolling at like 1.6 miles an hour. So I go back there, I finish the show. He gets back there and he starts doing it again. So now I'm losing my mind because I was doing. Yeah.
This is the part that for you music. Continue, just keep going.
So you totally got in my head, Matt. So I was losing my mind because I wanted to do another show on following up a crankbait bite with the Carolina rig. When you wear them out on a crankbait and you think in your head you caught them all, you really did not catch them all. And so I was showing how you can use the Carolina rig as a great follow-up tool to a crankbait bite. But Bonehead wouldn't leave me alone. So I started to get some of the Carolina rig stuff done, and he came back, and we started doing this thing again. So I had an exchange again. Long and short of it is I run down the lake somewhere else. He follows me down the lake. He does his thing again. I run back there, and I finish the Carolina rig show. Then he comes back to me, and I have another exchange with the guy, and he's like oblivious to everything he's doing. So he starts, I said, my cameraman wanted to catch a few. We got the shows done. We got the B-roll done. I said, I got one more place. We'll run down there. This guy's trolling all over this stuff, so it's senseless to be here. It's too shallow. He's pushing the fish everywhere. So we run down there, and God is my judge if he doesn't come down there and start trolling over that other rock pile.
Oh, my gosh.
So I threw my stuff down in the bottom of the boat and I left because I'm like, this is ludicrous. Well, in the meantime, before Walleye Man came out, I have a diagram. Before Walleye Boy comes out, this is what I'm fishing. I'm fishing the orange thing. Okay.
That's 22 to 24 foot long. That is you said some sort of structure in 4 to 6 foot
correct.
deep.
It's only 2 or 3 bass boat lengths long. This is me.
Took all day to find it. You said you had to start.
Oh, dude, I went 3 days before to find them.
Okay.
So this is me.
Hang on, I'm blowing up.
Oh, blowing it up.
You're 100 yards off the bank.
Yes, you see
so
the
you're out in the middle of nowhere.
You see apparently you see the diagram. I'm about 100 yards off the bank. There's about a quarter of a There's about quarter of a mile open water behind me. I'm fishing the X. Here comes Mr. Bass Boat guy, who should know better, by the way, because he's in a bass boat. He should know better.
This is a new guy? This is a new guy. This isn't Walleye guy.
No, this is not Walleye guy. Walleye guy was trolling all over this. This is new guy, bass boat guy. Comes running up, runs right across where I'm fishing to go all the way down the lake when he could have went around me a quarter of a mile. But he cut right in front of me like, dude, from my boat to the X, okay, point of intersection is a half a cast, okay? There is no reason on earth that somebody has to do that to another angler. I have never seen anything like this in my life, okay? The ethics that I see on the water on a day-to-day basis is making me nauseous. There is no reason, if you're fishing somewhere, for another guy to pull up in front of you and start fishing, or pull up right behind your transom and start fishing. That is absolute BS. There is no reason for it. You're not fishing for a living. You're out fun fishing. This is crap. And I don't understand when this stuff started taking place. Well, I kind of know when it started, but it's ridiculous. So here, in a tournament situation, because this is when I started experiencing it, my later years in Bassmasters. In a tournament situation, they stagger flights. If you're first boat, first flight the first day, your last boat, last flight the second day. Okay? So the reason for that is to give everybody an equal chance to get somewhere first. Well, if you get somewhere first, and that's your starting spot, no other angler has the right to pull up on you. You're there already, okay? That's the reason they stagger the flights. This is making me come out of my skin. And I wanted to do today's show solely and totally on this crankbait stuff. But I am so agitated with this already. Enough is enough, guys. We're all smart enough. We all know better, okay? There's no reason for this at all. Now, conversely, I'm going to change the subject because I need to get my blood pressure down to some normal level. Yeah, dude, you don't know how mad this makes me. My cameraman kept telling me, dude, don't say anything. Dude, don't say anything. And I'm like literally, I'm crawling out of my skin right now because it's bullshit. I've never done that to another angler in my entire life. So that's that. Okay. Now I'm going to take a deep breath.
Wow.
You guys just need your own show. You need to do a fifth show where you guys just rant about kids walking on your yard and roosters next door. It's going to be running over your
It's going to be like the two old men on Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Then you guys can go out and fire up the wood chipper and go ice fishing.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a deep breath, mellow out. Can you hear that noise? That's
Matt.
No, that's the cat trying to get in my office.
Oh.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so I get a lot of DMs from the wonderful fans that listen to this show. And I am getting so many intelligent questions from these guys. It's absolutely fabulous. The questions that these guys are answering, and that's a testament to the people that listen to this show. The questions that they are asking are so spot on. I answer every single one of them. And sometimes the questions are so in depth that I can't get all the detail I need to get, thumbing a message back and forth. So I try to cover the key points and knowing that it's not going to answer everything. But I just want to say you guys are absolutely fantastic because you pay attention and you're asking the right questions. And to me, that's absolutely fabulous. So I went from bad to great. How's that?
You okay, Frank? You all right?
Yeah, dude. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm still like having a fit conniption.
That segment was like educational. There was also some entertainment, like the
Yes.
story thrown in there, and then it turned into a PSA. It had grumpy,
gosh.
it had low light. You were catching doubles.
Oh,
you were
yeah.
angry. Yeah, I mean that had all the elements that you could ever hope for in a story, Frank. That was very impressive.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And this show is probably going to air in a couple weeks. So watch the Topwater Show, the Super Spook Jr. show, because it's a true post-spawn bite. How I'm gradually finding these fish in their transition, because they're constantly moving until they settle out. Then watch this crankbait show, because they're not far from the same place that I was catching them on the spook. So you'll see exactly how I find them, exactly how I trigger the school. And once I get the school fired up, dude, I'm not lying. It's every single cast. And here, listen to this. I had more than one double header. The unfortunate thing is I said I got two, and then one would come off. So I didn't use them in the video, because if I say I got two and flip one in the boat, it doesn't look right. So unfortunately, the double header that I got were two little bitty, pound fours, not 2.5 pounders. But it shows so good on how you find this stuff during this transition until they actually set up offshore. And you have to watch them both, because one's going to take you right into the other one. And it's killer. It just worked out so good. And these were two different lakes. The Topwater Show was on one lake. This show was on a completely different lake. But I used the exact same method to find them. Okay. I started shallow, worked my way out, because I wasn't sure how far out they were yet on their summer migration. So I wasn't sure. So I started shallow, worked my way out, used the 2 crankbait approach, use your hot shad patterns, your natural shad patterns. Money. It's money.
Let me put a bow on this other part with the guy troll and the guy running in front of you and stuff. No, I'm serious though. Something that Jeffrey's told me a long time ago that I have lived by ever since then is, if it crosses your mind that it's wrong, even if you can justify it, it's wrong.
100%.
So if you pull up and you have to ask your conger, you think I'm fishing too close to that guy, or you think it's cool if I run past? No, you already answered that question yourself. But if you pull up and it never crosses your mind, you subjectively might be wrong according to the guy who's down the bank. But if it never crosses your mind, you're still doing what you think is right. And therefore you can hold your ground and have an exchange that you're 100% believe in if someone ever approaches you or says something about it. So that's a little piece of advice that Jeffrey's gave me. There's 2 parts to it.
Can you?
What?
Can you hold your peace?
Hey, hold my ground?
Yeah, if I'm fishing somewhere and you pull up 20 yards in front of me, is that okay?
Well, I would hope that with my angling ethics, it would be obvious that I would say, I know I'm cutting Frank off, but I don't care. Well, that's crossing my mind that I know it's wrong, so I'm not going to do it. What I'm talking about is if I pull up and it never crosses my mind, like if I just see you down there, but I'm not stopping because of you, and then you come over, then I'm like, dude, I'm not here because of you. I'm not affecting you. Get out of here, grumpy Frank.
But if you're not affecting him, then you're not too close.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that way, if someone does come at you, you feel justified in standing your ground because you know you didn't do anything wrong. But if it crosses your mind, the other thing that I see a lot of people do, and for me, it's freaking communication. Now, let's say that guy, this is a hypothetical issue, but let's say there's a big ass boulder behind you somewhere that comes up to 2 foot, and that guy doesn't know it, but he's got a trail that runs right through where you're fishing. So that's the only place he feels like he can go through. In my opinion, the best thing to do, and I've done this before, would be to shut down, say, hey, dude, not trying to bug you, but I need to get to that other side. And the only way I know how to get there is to go right across past you, which is where you're fishing. I didn't want to blow your fish out. So what's the best way for me to get around you without affecting your day? I've done that multiple times in the Opens and the Toyotas, and I've never had a bad experience with it.
No, because you might have known a better way to get through anyway.
Right. And most of the time, the guys are like, oh, come on through. Or, like at Neely Henry, I stopped. We were fishing this real shallow area, right? And there was a guy fishing a mat of pennyworts. Well, it was a foot deep, and I didn't want to churn up all the mud. So I dropped my trolling motor 30 feet behind him. But this thing goes way back, and he spins around, and I go, hey, man, not fishing your mat. I said, you're going to catch one out of there, though. I said, but I'm not fishing your mat. I just want to let you know I'm going to get on the trolling motor, go past you, and start on that one down there. I didn't want to blow your spot out. And that guy went from, why'd this guy drop his trolling motor 30 feet behind me to, oh, cool. And we were chill for the next 2 hours in there. So
right. And that's how it's done, because after all, we are human. We have voices, we have logic and reason.
So, you're some of us.
Okay, so I'll
with the gallows laugh. Sometimes might lack it a little bit for him.
I'll circle logic and put a question mark on it, because some guys don't have logic. But I'm not picking on everybody. I'm just talking about a real problem with what we do. I'm just talking about a real problem. It's legitimate and it's out there. There's no reason that as a bass fisherman you should hate on another bass fisherman. There's just no reason for it, even though a lot of people give you reason to.
Here's the other thing that I know that guys do offshore. I've listened to guys do this, is they'll come up and say, if it's your first spot of the morning, right, and you've got one freaking shell bed and your boat's 60 and boat 30's already on it, this is the way I think it is supposed to be handled. The way I know a lot of guys handle is boat 60 idles up to boat 30, and instead of just pretending like he's not there and they get in a contest casting 1 ounce jigs at each other's head, he goes, hey man, this is the only freaking spot I got on this lake. I know it's good. Tomorrow I'll be boat 30 and you'll be boat 60. If we kind of share and split this thing up today, you're welcome to come in tomorrow, and we might lose a little bit of a chance to win, but we can both fish this spot for 2 days. If not, then it's mine tomorrow, and you better find someplace else to fish, because I'm giving it to you today, and tomorrow it's flipped.
Right. But here, like I have a buddy of mine, I told the story last time I was on. At Champlain, we wound up splitting some of our structure spots. And so we communicated to each other, all right, what time do you think you'll be there? He said, I'm going to start on that one. I said, all right, you start on that one. I'll go to a different one. I'll fish that one later in the afternoon. And so we never bumped heads the entire day. And out of probably, I would say 15 spots, we had 6 or 7 that were identical. And we never ran into each other the whole day. And we both caught fish, and we both top 10 the event. So there you go.
Wow.
There you go. That's how you do it.
Jeffrey's ever yelled at anyone? You ever yelled at anyone on the water? Have you ever gotten into it? I've never even asked you about on the water confrontations with Mark Jeffries.
Back in the Federation days.
That's what you were, purple wrapped boat, hothead, Team Smith.
No, it was. No, man, it was even before that.
That was like mullet, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Yeah, no, even before that.
Mullet, earring.
Tell us the story.
No.
Mark. There you are,
No.
the purple wrapped
Purple people eater.
No, I mean, a lot of this stuff, yes, Frank is 100% correct about a lot of these situations occur when you are targeting a specific area that is offshore. All right, it turns into a frickin', cluster
politics.
sometimes. Yeah. But another situation that takes place, and Frank, you can help me out on this because I'm sure you have some of these, is when the sight fishing bonanza is taking place around boat docks.
Yeah.
All right. That's my fish. No. I found that on Thursday. No, you didn't. I found that, in my opinion,
that's stupid argument right there.
It is a free-for-all because those fish are moving in and moving out and doing all kinds of stuff. How do you know that one fish was the same fish that was there Thursday?
Yeah.
Could have been, but probably not.
Fish, if it's a bed fish and you're not on it.
Yeah, so it was a Federation event, and I found these fish, and I knew that there were going to be the railway going on. I mean, they were move in, move out, move in, move out. And I was working this one fish for probably about 5 minutes. And here comes this dude in a Ranger. And I mean, he's calling me everything.
Ranger under the bus. What did that have?
He is calling me everything but a human being.
And he's an idiot because you were there first.
Oh my gosh!
Was it DeGraff and Reed?
No. No.
Let's just talk. Let's just mention names.
No. But that one sticks out in my mind the most. I mean, this is 30 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Where I got so mad. I go, look, dude, I'll go put it up on this beach right here.
No, you didn't.
Oh, heck yeah.
You didn't really actually challenge someone to the bank.
Money.
You want to bet? Dude, you always say you know everything about me. You don't know a hill of beans about me when it comes to certain stuff. I don't think so. I don't even know who it was.
He's in a shallow grave on the bank.
No, I have no idea. Dude, I was so mad because I was having a really, really good day, and this was going to be my 5th fish, and the dude was just a jerk.
So what
just
did he
an
say?
Absolute jerk.
He comes up in the Ranger, and what did he say?
Oh, he was calling me all kinds of names for being on his fish. You remember that, Frank? That's my fish.
It's so stupid. If you're
That's a great T-shirt. That's my fish.
That's my fish. I was like, what? And Matt, Frank, I'm not kidding you. He was blurting out words that I didn't even know existed that made me feel about this big. All right? That's about the last thing you can do to me to really piss me off.
But here. You were clearly there before he got there.
Yeah.
You both clearly practiced for a tournament. It's apparent it was a sight fishing deal. So in a sight fishing tournament, your job is to look for fish on beds. So you were there first. That guy should have turned around and went somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because you were there first. And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
If it's the only place the guy had to go to catch a fish, he's not winning the tournament anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You follow me?
Right.
So that was probably the worst. Now, here, I'm going to turn it into a positive because Matt always says
Frank,
I'm all about the negative.
There's someone on the message board that's claiming you once banned them from the message board over an on-the-water confrontation.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
I absolutely love you guys.
Yeah, it is what it is. All right, now I'm gonna throw a positive out there. There is a spot.
Getting home at 11 o'clock at night, fired up the message board, just scrolling through the list of names and being, there he is, block, and then just feeling amazing. Then just going in. Turning on Money Matters on CNBC and having a great evening.
Yeah, that's kind of how I roll. Anyway, no, listen. Do you remember a guy by the name of Tim Carroll and Rayhide? Does that name ring a bell? No. Matt?
Yeah, Rayhide was the he had one of those team deals. He was from Arkansas, big time flipper.
Well, he used to live in Oklahoma and he moved to Arkansas.
Okay, was he not Coppertone? Was he Coppertone?
I don't remember. I can't remember that. But Tim Carroll and Rayhide were a couple of the real dominant teams back in the mid-'90s, early 90s, that kind of era. Tim actually fished the FLW Tour, Ray fished the FLW Tour for quite some time. Anyway, there was an area, very, very specific area on Lake Fort Gibson that a lot of people knew about. All right, and I was fishing with Pat, my UPS buddy, in an old Angler's Choice team event. And once again, I'm going to say this is a positive thing. All right, before we even launched that day or anything, I knew Tim and Ray were going to fish that area. So I went up to Ray and I go, look, dude, I said, we got a topwater bite in the morning. Then the only thing we got left is that one area that I think that you and Tim are going to fish. I said, is it okay if you take the low side and we'll take the high side? In other words, the south side and the north side.
Got it.
And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, listen, what we'll do, we'll just draw a line there, just halfway through. Let us have the lower half, you have the upper half, and we'll work together and we'll be good to go. All right? That's a proactive situation of which you know what's going to develop instead of just showing up
right,
and having a confrontation.
right.
And we both ended up having a great day, man.
Yeah,
both teams.
That's called being professional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just courtesy. Hey, at the end of the day, it's just common courtesy.
Yeah.
Scotch blue. That was it. The tape.
That's it. Yeah.
Painter's tape.
That's why. Yeah.
But yeah, come on, Matthew. Are you serious? Me get into a confrontation on the water? Come on.
Mr. Rant and Rave over there.
I was like 28, 29 back then, man. That's 30-something years ago. Yeah, I was. Yeah. I would throw down a little bit if I had the opportunity. Anyway, all right, Frank, you ready to take some questions?
I am. I've been ready.
Well, there's been a lot out there. All right, let's throw this one up first. Joseph wants to know, Frank, does a crankbait color really matter, or does the timing of when you fish a particular spot matter more? Will the fish eat any color if they move up on a point, for example, if they are feeding?
You will catch something, whether it's a color that's really going to be a trigger is another thing that remains. I think color matters a lot. And here, the proof is in the pudding. Last week, they were taking the hot colors and slapping at them, and I was catching them all on the side of the face. As soon as I went to the natural shad pattern, they were choking on it. So those fish were clearly dialed into a specific bait tone, and it was clearly specific, and they clearly wanted it better. So yes, my opinion is color absolutely matters. I have thousands of examples of this in my fishing all over the country. If color didn't matter, guys, every lure would be black or white.
Yeah, great point.
Color matters.
Hey, over on the Bass Zone instant feedback, somebody says Frank should come up with a new color called Upset Red.
I'm going to have a whole new color series. We're going to call
Upset Red.
Shallow grave and
wow.
Shallow grave.
That's pretty cool. All right. Yeah. Several people want to know about the speed clip. Are you using a speed clip?
Always. Yeah. Anytime I'm crankbait fishing, that speed clip is on there. It offers the bait more movement, more freedom of movement. You get a little more action out of the bait. Always the speed clip on a crankbait. And don't hook the speed clip to the eye of the crankbait. Hook the speed clip to the O-ring that the crankbait comes with.
Very nice. Let's see here. Bunch of man.
I have one, Frank. You were talking about how you had and I wanted to go back. I actually made some notes. It's hard to read because I did it with a big highlighter instead of an actual writing pen. But well,
good job.
I roll over here. So here's something you're talking about. You know, one that's softer, one that's harder. How the DD22 swims down. How the fat-free shad dives down. I could see color making a difference based on if like there was water clarity, the forage changed, light penetration, all that type of stuff. But what I've never been able to wrap my head around is why one day when conditions are the same, they'll eat a bait with a harder wobble, and then one day a bait that's rolling, or they'll really be eating a bait with a tighter wiggle. Like I'm putting that bait in the same thing. I know those fish are there, but why one day when nothing has changed will they react to one? Like I said, I have swims versus dive, cadence, wobble, and rattle. Like why would that change in 24 freaking hours or over the course of 2 hours? Like it's hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah, it does. They'll just have a preference.
But why? Like that's what I'm saying. Like why? Like I've heard this for years and years and years, and I do the same thing you do. Like if you're throwing a trap, you throw 9 different traps, you throw 6 different crankbaits, you go from a straight tail. Why? Like do you have any reason as to why the preference changes?
Well, it's just, one, it's mood. It's the fish's mood. That's number one. Number two is bass have a tendency to key in onto certain rattle sounds certain vibrations. So after you go through a spot with something, if they're keying in on that and they say, no, that's not good, you give them something different, they're liable to explode on that. And that's what I found in my offshore fishing, is that I always mix it up. Like even if the Carolina rig is the paramount key pattern of the day, I still go through with crankbaits. And vice versa. If the crankbait is the pattern of the day, I still go back through with the Carolina rig and or a football jig, because I'm picking up bites that I did not get on the other baits. It's very critical. I mean, here our objective is to catch fish. If you're fishing in a tournament situation, you want to take advantage of every bass you can get that bites. If you're out fun fishing, you want to take advantage of the day because you don't have a million days to fish. You're a weekender and you have to work during the week. So this is a way to take one area and turn it into more bites for you guys. This is the very effective way of fishing. Like, I feel terrible for somebody that fishes behind me because I don't leave any stone unturned when I'm fishing.
So is it kind of like you're in a boxing match and the guy just throws left, 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 and eventually you get to where you expect the left, and then he throws a right, and you're like, whoa, where the hell did that come from? And it really catches their attention. Is that like kind of what a crankbait changeup is?
100%. Plus, dude, if they're keying in on a vibration or a rattle sound and you switch it up, the other one might be a better trigger. And that's the whole key, is to find out what they want better. Like, it was clear that day they wanted lavender shad better than any of the other colors. I've had lakes where my color holy shad, if you weren't throwing that, you didn't catch anything. Nothing. So you have to experiment with, and here, like lavender shad, I call a natural shad pattern. Basically, it's a gray back, pearl white sides with lavender metal flake on it. But I have real shad patterns, like holy shad, for example, is a real shad pattern. The reason I didn't go to holy shad in that situation was because the water wasn't as clear as it normally was. So I wanted to do solids and hots because the visibility wasn't that great. So that's the reason. If this lake was cleaner, I would have went to even more natural shad patterns or more natural baitfish patterns. So that's the reason behind it.
There you go.
All right, here's another question. Let me throw this up here. Does Frank and Matt use backing on reels? And if so, what knot do they tie?
Yeah, 100%. It's senseless to waste all that line on a reel. I usually leave about 75 yards, 100 yards on my cranking rods, and I probably only do about 50 yards on my flipping stick. So I'm only spooling up 50 yards of new line on my flipping stick. The knot I use, I'll just use like a barrel knot or a surgeon's knot to connect the two.
All right, Matt?
I do the same thing. I just use a uni to uni, except I only do it like 1 or 2 times, so the knot's even smaller. And then the one thing that I make sure on my backing is I'll like pull it and then crank the handle, pull it and crank the handle, so that knot where it connects is dead nuts in the middle of my spool. Right. That way you don't get more line, because there's going to be just a hair more depth, because you have that knot. If it's up against the side of the spool, it's more likely if you get down there to catch. Yeah.
Yep. That's good stuff. All right, that crankbait, the purple looking one, you still have that handy?
Lavender shad.
Yeah, I have it.
The purple looking one, Mark.
Well, hang on, I have a reason for saying that.
You gotta.
I'm hooked. Hold on, these hooks are killer.
They are. Whoa. Okay, how different? And this is a greedy question on my part.
You could see the flake.
Yeah, how different is that color compared to the old color that I believe was purple haze? Do you remember that?
I don't remember the purple haze color.
That was a bandit color.
No,
that was an OG.
No, I can go. I've got one on the rack over there. I can go get it.
I do too, because I fished with my one of my buddies who engaged in recreational herb, and every time we fished, he only fished purple haze. I'm serious. He's like, give me that purple haze. He thought it was the greatest thing on earth.
I'm going to bet that the purple haze had purple pearl in it, not purple metal flake.
Okay, that's the difference. Now, I'll say this much. That color for years was a staple on Grand Lake.
Yeah, they had one called Purple Essence too.
Yeah.
I think they still make it in Norman. Purple Essence is a killer. It's a killer. The splatterback is actually a dark black purple, and then it has purple metallic flake. Lavender shad has lavender flake and a gray back. Lavender shad is one of my favorite colors too. Lavender shad, tropical shad, obviously chartreuse and blue, which nobody seems to throw anymore, which I don't get. And then, of course, all my natural shad patterns are money. I never, my boat's loaded 80% crankbaits. That's what I have. My soft plastic selection is minimal because it's easier. It's easy to deal with soft plastics. I only have probably 6 colors in every soft plastic, maybe 6. So that's pretty easy. I just do my soft plastic based on action, creature bait, worm, ribbon tail, finesse worms, stuff like that. I haven't broken down in that capacity. Creature baits, my spine craws and Christie craws go into creature bait category. I don't have a specific craw category.
Yeah. All right, here's another question. So how many times does Frank change colors when you're not catching? Do you try different colors before you change areas?
Well, I'll go with some confident colors because you're going to catch one fish at least. If I'm not catching fish and I don't see them on the locator and I'm not catching them, I don't stay in one spot too long. I got to find them first. Once I find them, then I fine tune it. You can't fine tune it if you're not on the fish.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Easy. Sounds easy.
Yeah. Here's kind of a similar question. In the summer, how many bait changes would you make through an area, ledge, a school without getting a bite before you move on?
Well, that's a great thing because if I'm not getting a bite, there's a possibility that I'm not on fish. So I could be in the wrong depth area. I could not be on the right part of the structure. The fish I found the other day, they were only in a 40-foot section of this entire river ledge. So if I would have bailed, I would have missed those fish. Or conversely, if I had my boat in 15 feet, I would have never been casting where the fish were at. Yeah. Which is why I started shallow and worked my way out. And that's pretty much the key. You have to, if you're not on them, you're not catching them. If you're on them, you're at least going to catch something.
Yeah. Hey, once again, remind everybody the best speed clip that you can get to utilize with crankbaits.
That's the Norman speed clip. I mean, It has, the way the clip is designed, it has like a O-ring on the end of the clip. You squish the clip down and the O-ring opens up. And then I put that on the O-ring of the crankbait. So what I got is an O-ring to O-ring connection. So the bait's freer. It moves freer. So when it deflects good. It straightens out after deflection. It's just that speed clip is it just works so good. I don't use anything else. I have never used another clip since that came out. The only time you can't use the speed clip in a vibrating bait, or like a crankbait or a rattle bait or something to that nature, is on a blade bait, because it won't go through the hole of the blade bait. Then you got to use a regular snap for that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Frank. Do you think a lot of the casual anglers or even the weekend guys and girls give up on a crankbait too quick because they get frustrated? Is that a tendency? What are your thoughts?
I think the tendency comes in lack of confidence in what they're looking for, because if you're in the right place, you're going to get rewarded. If you're not in the right place, you're not going to be rewarded. That's just the nature of fishing. The fish don't occupy all of the water column. They only occupy certain parts of the water column based on season, weather, and water conditions and currents. Giving up on a crankbait early, I don't think is necessarily the issue. I think it's maybe not dialing in on a pattern, because sometimes they're just not on a crankbait.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not. But here, like one day I went out, I started out with a DD22. It was already, end of July. Started out with a DD22. First cast, I caught a 3-pounder. I had my youngest son, Josh, with me. I told Josh, fire the Carolina rig out there quick. He fires the Carolina rig out there, immediately catches one. I stayed on the DD22. He caught 2 more. I didn't catch another one on the DD22. I put down the DD22, picked up the Carolina rig, and we had 52 fish in the boat by noon. And every one of them came on the Carolina rig. So there's times when the bass, they tell you, they say, hey, I'm not chasing that. Forget about it. You know what I mean? And they don't.
Yeah.
So you have to pay attention to what the bass are telling you, because they always tell you something. It's whether or not you pick up on it, even the shallow water guys, those bass tell you even more, because if they're in cover, let's say they're in bushes, right? And you pitch in the bush, thunk, your bait goes down to the bottom, you jiggle it a couple times, you don't get nothing. You're reeling it up, you're pulling it out of the tree, and one flashes on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That tells me those fish are suspending in that bush. So then I go to a lighter slip sinker, so my bait falls slower down there. And then all of a sudden you start catching them. That fish that flashed told me all I needed to know about the rest of the day. You follow me?
Yeah.
And those are the pieces of the puzzle that you got to put together. Like here, I was fishing a tournament on a local reservoir. It's a tough reservoir to fish. And we were actually Carolina rigging the crap out of them on 6-inch lizards. Yeah, I know, Matt. I'm sorry, dude.
I know.
I'm sorry.
He needs to get over it, Frank.
Okay, so
the description words, I love it.
So here's what happened. We're running out of time. We got a decent limit. I don't know if we're going to win the tournament. I'm kind of iffy on the win. It's a low weight lake to begin with. So I cast out, and I've got a structural element with 3 or 4 pieces of lumber down there on a steep break. So every time I come over the lumber, I get one. So, and we're catching them cast after cast. Well, they're all little, 14 inchers. I'm burning my Carolina rig in to make another cast, and I got a 3-pounder running it down. I kill the rig. He eats it. I set the hook and put him right in the boat. I throw that rod down. I pick up my fat-free 7, and I throw it out there, and I called every single fish we had in 5 casts, and we won the event.
Wow.
All because the one fish that ran it out was bigger than anything we were catching, and he was running that bait down like it was his job. So by paying attention to what the fish are telling you will absolutely put more fish in your boat. Absolutely.
All right. Here's a good question. Clay wants to know, how often do offshore fish change depth range? What causes it? Time of day, current, thermocline? What's the scoop, Frank?
The scoop is all of the above, okay? Thermocline definitely predicts fish depth. They will never be below the thermocline. Usually they're just above the thermocline. For those that don't know, there's no oxygen below the thermocline. If you have your locator set sensitivity enough, you will see a thermocline. Most of the time, however, you're not fishing close enough to that thermocline to make a difference. Sometimes you are, but most of the time you're not. Current predicts fish location on the structure. Smallmouth, feeding smallmouth are on the upcurrent side. Neutral smallmouth are on the downcurrent side. Largemouth will get on top of the structure or suspend just off the structure. So the current is a location predictor, okay? Water clarity is another thing. Clearer the water, deeper the fish. If there's grass in the lake, seldomly do you have to fish deeper than the deepest grass. Although I have seen where that's not the case, but normally 80% of the time, that's the case in a grass lake. So these are things that you have to pay attention to when you're structure fishing. The other thing is if it's a current generated lake, if they run the turbine certain times of the day, Pickwick's a perfect example. When they're flush and current, those fish are feeding. When they stop moving current, those fish become neutral. Same thing on Lay Lake. Lay Lake is another lake that I notice current's very critical on. So these are things you want to take into consideration. And most tidal rivers, outgoing tide's the best, incoming tide's second best, ebb tide, you want to pull your eyeballs out of your sockets. But most of the time on tidal places, most of the time, not all of the time, most of the time, you're not fishing much deeper than 8 feet anyway. So.
All right, one more question here, Frank. Justin wants to know, can you explain what you meant by one crankbait dives and one swims down?
Yes. Okay, I will. I'm going to open up 2 more. I feel like I'm getting ready to go rabbit hunting, going through my shells right now.
I'm gonna blow it up here, Frank.
All right, so we're going to go 2 more, and I'm going to explain this very easily. Okay. Fat-free shad number 7, look at the bill shape. DD22, look at the bill shape. DD22, which is this one, long and slender, fat-free shad, short and wide. Both baits get down to the same depth. The fat-free shad, because of the bill design, dives, whoa, goes down. DD22, because of the bill design, swims down. So one will swim down, one dives down. The swim down bait is really good if the fish are suspending a little bit off of the structure, because what happens is you're making bottom contact, and then it comes off the structure and swims through the suspending fish. Okay. The hard diver, the bait that dives down, let's say your structure, you need to keep the bait in 15 or 16 feet longer. You can make a cast. This bait stays in that depth range much longer at a shorter cast. The DD22 will get down there, but you'll need a longer cast to keep it down deep enough, long enough. So that's the difference between the two. So one dives, one swims. That's the difference between a diving bait and one that swims down and one that dives right to depth.
All right. That's cool stuff. Matt, you got anything, man?
No, I'm just listening.
How often do you throw it? Hey, well, I got to ask this because I've never seen him throw one. Mm-hmm. When's the last time you threw a deep diving crankbait?
Last time you picked up a Carolina rig.
No, I threw it a bunch when I fished that big bass challenge at Grand when they were out there. So, like, I have a big, extensive deep dive and plug collection because back when you said that I was wasting my time fishing the nickels, back in like 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, it really pissed me off. Yeah. And I knew that, that May, June timeframe, they have a tournament in May, they have a tournament in June, post-spawn out there. So I really learned how to throw a big plug out there, and then spending all this time in the boat with the guys over the course, I know how those guys throw plugs. So, I mean, I've got extensive amount of DD22s. There's actually a warehouse in Oklahoma City, some little town anyway, that like, I guess the guy owned a tackle shop, but he had bought all these and like had hoarded. I mean, it was like cases in this rickety, like the guy I don't know what happened. Anyway, Jared Miller called me. He's like, this guy's got a bunch of tackle. And it was like a store that had gone out of business years ago, but he had just boxes and cases of DD22s up there for like $1.50 a piece.
Oh my god! Now
some of them, like the rattle in it had already kind of like gotten a little powdery. Does that make sense?
That's the money baits, dude.
Oh, they are?
Those are the money baits. Yeah, the beautiful thing about Norman is they're made out of butyrate plastic, which is a little bit softer plastic, like a little softer than ABS. Mm-hmm. But here's what happens in butyrate. As the rattle knocks back and forth, it gets a little dusty inside, and it changes.
Yeah, that's what
changes the sound.
Hold on, let me see if I've got them, because they're like hologram colors and all sorts of crazy stuff that I've never seen.
Yeah. So back to what Matt said. As you use a crankbait, the same bait over and over again, it starts to get what I call worn sound. Those are the baits that I mark, and I stop throwing them in practice, and I stop fun fishing with them because they get to a certain point where the sound is perfect in them. And then I leave it for tournaments use only. It's guys that don't fish crankbaits a lot don't pay attention to a lot of small little nuances. I guess Matt's he's either robbing the place or he found his box of goodies.
Yeah, so like this used to be one of my favorites that I haven't thrown these in years. The Suspend Plus 4s.
Okay, yeah.
How old are those? They still make those?
Very no.
Like just old school colors, like the bills actually kind of like turning a little bit
yellow. That's just all that is the clear coat.
But yeah, I mean, I've got a ton of those Suspend Plus 4s, and then the color that I threw probably the most when I used to deep crank a bunch on Grand. I love that. I think it's avocado.
Yeah, that's a good color, dude. Actually, that's like the first root beer that came out.
Yeah, I've got another box somewhere. There were some of them in here, but like just a bunch of weird old cool colors.
Yeah,
that's all those for like $1.50.
That's a olive back chartreuse sided one.
Yeah,
that's a good bait. Good color.
Like Suspend Plus 4. I really liked those Suspend Plus 4s back in the day, but it was a weird deal because I mean, you throw five or six different types of crankbaits out there, but there is a time when they eat a DD22 better than any other bait.
Oh, hands down. I mean, here I live and breathe with DD22s and fat-free shad number 7s, fat-free shad 6s, basically the fat-free series and the Normans I live and die on. Oh, that's an old Big O, dude.
How freaking old is that?
That's one you put on your shelf.
I mean, it's big and old.
Yeah, that's one you put on your shelf.
Really?
Yeah, that's an old bait. But yeah, I mean, I live and die on those crankbaits the most because they're the most effective for me. My crankbait fishing is not full of experimentation. I base what I fish by success.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I found a DD22.
Yeah, well, when you and Jeffries go out, then kill it. I would have some fat-free shads and some DD22s out because last time I fished that lake, I fished with a smallmouth guru down there, and when I pulled out my DD22s and my fat-free 7s, he lost his mind. He goes, we're not largemouth fishing, dude. I go, oh. I said, if you don't think a smallmouth will choke on this, you got another thing coming. And I proceeded to put some Mugambo-sized smallmouth in the boat, and this guy's eyes were this big. He's got these little itty-bitty tubes and all this little shit. And I said, you don't need that to catch small. You want to catch big ones, or do you want to catch 13-inchers? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I wound up catching some giant largemouth on to boot the same day, but we were really targeting smallmouth.
You can't give Jeffries any waypoints.
I won't.
What? I missed that. I'm sorry.
You can't give Jeffries any waypoints on fin killing.
I won't.
I don't need them. How about that, Frank?
Dude, way to go. Hey, that's what I call.
I don't need them.
Last time he claimed he didn't get any help, which I believe.
I got zero.
But what he failed to mention was 2 days prior, Jason Christie had been live on Facebook throwing a plug in Jeffrey's favorite area that Jeffrey suddenly wants to do the one-on-one on Ted Killer. Well, I wasn't keeping up on the interwebs, and little did I know that basically he had Jason Christie pre-fishing for him. So when he shows up with 8 crankbaits on the front deck, I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? Well, then I go back and watch the freaking live. Christie was fishing live for 2 hours. Well, no duh, the guy freaking drilled him on it. So he basically got there and watched it. I didn't even know that he was on live.
Public knowledge, Frank. Public knowledge.
It was public knowledge, but it was a loophole in the system.
All I'm hearing is a lot of crying.
Oh,
all I'm hearing.
Yeah, I got my work cut out for me.
Now I've
this
got
time.
the pressure on me.
Oh, you don't have the pressure on you. You just got to go out and go fishing.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Frank, several people want to know, what about translucent crankbaits?
Yeah, that's some of my natural shad patterns are translucent. To clear the water, that's when I really use those translucents. Now, some of my colors you got to pay attention to because they look semi-transparent, but in the water they're not. It's based on how I lay the pearls out. So some of them, like Holy Shad, looks transparent until it hits the water. I got some new bomber colors coming out, same thing. I design colors based on my experiences on the water. I don't just make up a color to make it up. I paint my colors based on what I see out there. So, and everything has a reason and a place for it. And translucent colors are definite place.
All right. Let's see here. Rick wants to know, what size speed clips for the crankbaits?
Yeah, I think they only come in 2 sizes, if I'm not mistaken, and I use the smaller size. The big ones are big.
You would really put this one on the shelf, though?
Yeah, I would.
Is that an old one?
Yeah, I can tell by the eyes. And
it's probably,
and the way
I would venture to say it's the 70s.
Yeah, and I can tell by the eyes and the way the logo is on the side.
Yeah, the paint's all gone off of it. It's just like this weird silvery color, but it used to.
It looks like he spray painted it silver.
Nah, yeah, I don't know. No, it's not. There's no paint on it. That's like just. It's like you can see it's like faded off.
Yeah, it has to be an underlayer of some sort because I can see where it chipped.
Yeah.
Check this one out from Josh. Frank, I smashed LMB this weekend with the Super Spook Jr. modified. Thank you for that lesson.
You know, you guys are killing me, man. I have gotten so many messages from dudes that are crashing them on this bait now.
Yeah.
With the modifications, and a couple of guys are winning some local stuff around here on them. I love it. That's what the whole thing about, especially day 4. BTL as a rule gives you really good information all the time. It's information that you're not going to get anywhere else, and that's why this format is so important. Because you're getting good info.
Absolutely, and that's all about Frank. All right, now he wants to know, can you give any pointers on bringing fish into the boat on Norman crankbaits?
Yeah, if you're losing a lot of fish on a crankbait, you have to look at what kind of rod you're using. I have a tendency, I don't use fiberglass. I use graphite, and I have a couple composite rods, but mostly they're all graphite. I always crankbait. Whenever I'm crankbaiting long distances or big giant crankbaits, I'm throwing 7.5 foot rods or 7'9" rods. I even have an 8-footer that I love. In fact, I don't make the 8-footer anymore, and I wish they did because I would have 10 of them. If I'm short range fishing, square bills, etc., target casting, I use a 7.2 medium heavy. Target casting, you want a lot of backbone. You want a soft tip. You don't want that super parabolic bend in normal crankbait rods because you'll lose a ton of fish that way. Target casting, you want a stiffer backbone, a little softer tip so you have accuracy, because short range cranking is like power fishing, because if I'm square bill and I can go 12, 14, and 17 and 20 pound line. So you're really power fishing with that bait. Long range casting, the longer rod gives you more leverage. I want backbone. I don't want a rod that bends like a C. I want a rod that bends more like a J. The tip of the rod will take up the slack from the fish. I always keep constant pressure on the fish. The other thing I stopped doing was trying to stop them from jumping. Like when you bury your rod all the way down to the stripper guide and you reel them and trying to keep them from jumping. A lot of times you get into mistakes because eventually you're going to have to get the rod out of the water and change direction on the fish to get leverage. And that motion right there is going to cost you the fish. So generally speaking, I hook them with the crankbait. I keep them on the same side, keep them coming. When they jump, I just keep tension on the line. And this way they don't have a tendency to shake the plug.
All right, now Peter has corrected me. He wants to know clear, not translucent. Do you use clear crankbaits and when? Nope. I don't throw clear plastic baits at all. Good point.
Except this one Super Spook Jr. It's got a blue head, transparent body, but it has metallic in it, so it's not clear. But no, I don't throw clear plastic baits.
All right.
I just don't do it.
All right, Matt. Oh, I'm sorry, Frank. Go ahead.
Doesn't make it wrong. It's just not something I do.
Yeah. Matt, anything else, man?
No, that's...
You have a question.
So do you always throw? I want to go back to the first thing that you always talked about. You're throwing those baits in 4 to 6 foot of water, and you talked about how you want one that will hit the bottom but not trench the bottom.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting because you've talked a lot of times about throwing a crankbait that dives 1 or 2 foot deeper and generating the bite with the deflection off of a hard bottom or something. But I never really, I guess, thought much about the angle of the bait when it's down there on the bottom. And I thought that was interesting how some, I guess, are going to be more power driving into the bottom, whereas others are more likely to have less aggressive stance to them, so they're less likely to dig in and more likely to tick and deflect, right?
That's what I'm after. I'm after ticking and deflecting. I don't want it plowing in the bottom so hard that perfect example. A lot of times if you have a bass, he'll top the bait, okay? Yeah. And what that means is the bait's diving down and he hits it from above. That is going to be a lost fish because the bait's plowing and digging and dragging in the bottom. It's literally burying itself in the mud. And that bass, he hits it from above down. You're going to lose that fish. But if I got one that's lightly hitting the bottom and it's always deflecting, he's gonna have a chance to get the whole bait in his mouth because it's not, digging another river channel. You know what I mean? Yeah. You want to maintain that bottom contact, but you don't want it to be the whole. And like here, I wouldn't have thrown a DD22 on that 4 foot stuff because all it would do is plow and run crooked and plow and do all the stuff.
With similar crankbaits on it, what I'm saying is I think that's an important part. Just like different baits, you say have rattles and cadences and wobbles. Right. Different baits react differently when they come in contact with the bottom. And correct. I think, a mistake I make is, okay, I'm hitting the bottom with it. I'm ticking the bottom, but I'm not always conscious or ever really thought about, is this bait that I'm throwing at this depth doing what I want it to do when it's on the bottom, or am I just feeling it hitting the bottom and it's actually not? I could actually be doing better with a different bait that hits it differently based on how hard the cover is, the aggression of the fish, how they're eating it, what's looking. So that's like something that's real easy to fix, real also easy to overlook.
Right. So here, I'll give you a really good example. Sometimes I'll be fishing an offshore structure. Let's say I'm fishing 16 foot depth. Let's say the sweet spot, it comes up to 14. So I'm throwing my DD or I'm throwing my Fat Free 7, right? And all the way down this structure, I'm getting the right boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. I'm getting the right stuff. Well, when I come to the higher spot, now it's going to freaking plow in, dig, and dredge. I actually stop reeling the crankbait and I slowly pull my rod over it. So I give the buoyancy of the bait time to rise. And then by slowly pulling the rod over, I'm doing exactly what I want it to do. As soon as I come over to the high spot, I start reeling down again. That's also very critical to understand when you could sweep your rod a little bit, stop reeling and sweep your rod a little bit. I change the cadence on my crankbait fishing all the time. I'm always forever changing speeds, changing how I'm doing it. To get more strikes. Now, there are times when I just smoke it in, cast it out and just and smoke it in. But most of the time when I'm doing that, I'm having very little bottom contact at all. And I'm just trying to get a bass to bite the thing. You know what I mean?
So then when you're bringing these baits in, and especially I say this because the older DD22s are horrible at it. You're always like kind of tuning them a little bit. Some will come in and you can tell it's getting down there. But then when you get it to the boat, it'll run to the left or it'll run to the right before you bring it up. Then others, and this is what I've always heard, you're crank. It'll basically go under the boat, spin around, and come straight back up.
Yeah.
If I've got a bait that's not 100% digging straight down to me, am I losing depth all? I should be able to burn that as hard as I should in that bait. No,
because some bills don't dictate for burning a crank.
Okay, but I should be able to reel it in, and at the boat when you do that like pump, it shouldn't blow left or it shouldn't blow right. It should you should stay straight and it should come straight back to
like here when I get the crankbait close to the boat and I pull it up like that to make another cast, I'll pull it up and it'll run right to me.
And then it'll spin around, turn around the bill, then will actually turn away from you for a split second.
It depends how you're pulling on the bait.
Yeah.
Like when you tune a big build crankbait, I see a lot of guys put 4 feet of line out and they hold their rod up in the air and they pull it and they see which way the bait runs to tune it up. That's not accurate with a big build bait because that's not the angle of the pull. So what I'll do is I'll chuck it out about 20 feet in front of me, point the rod straight at it and reel it in. And then I'll watch and see where my line goes as it's coming in. And then I make the correction. You can't accurately tune a bait, a deep diving crankbait. You can do that with shallow build baits, but you can't do it with a deep diver. Just 4 feet of line out and pull it and go, oh yeah, I'm good, because you're not good. You got to throw it out about, 15 or 20 feet, point the rod directly at it, reel moderately to yourself and watch the line out of your guide. If the line's going one way or going the other way, then you got to correct the bait.
Okay.
And here, Normans are the easiest crankbait on earth to tune. They're the easiest, and they take next to no pressure to tune them. So if you think like a fat-free shad, you got to muscle it a little bit.
Add a little bit of pressure with some needle nose, and it'll do the difference. Otherwise, it'll be blowing out to the right when it was blowing out to the left.
Correct.
I mean, you're talking like 132nd of an inch.
I'm talking about something that I don't want to say, but I tune my Normans with my teeth.
Ooh, what?
Yeah. They're so sensitive. So what I'll do, and I am not recommending this because look, I got chipped teeth like a madman. I bite line. I do everything you're not supposed to do. Don't do this. But here's how sensitive a Norman crankbait is. I'll take it and I'll go like that, and that's it. And I'll tune it. And that's because when you grab the needle nose pliers, if you're excited or you're shaking and you overtune the bait. And it's the Normans tune so easy. Part of the reason I love them so much, besides the fact that I catch a gazillion fish on them, is the fact that they are super tunable. And once you tune them, they're tuned. And if they ever get out of tune, the only time I've ever untuned one is if I snag it on the bottom and I start trying to pull it free, and then I get it free. Then I'll have to retune it because they are that sensitive to tune up. But they're such an easy bait to tune up, and they're so good. And once you get them dialed in, they are dialed. I mean, they are just money, man.
Yeah, that's the next T-shirt. I tune with my teeth.
Oh no, don't. Don't. I'm telling you guys, don't do it.
Anyway,
don't, because
Wow.
Yeah, don't bite line with your teeth and don't tune crankbaits because, I got chips all over my teeth.
You need a dental sponsor there.
Yeah, no kidding. Right.
All right, a couple more questions and then we'll wrap things up. Several people want to know, do you make modifications to your crankbait, drill holes, fill them with stuff, make them sink? What's the scoop on that, Frank?
I don't do too much modification on my crankbait other than hooks. The DD22s and the bombers are generally set. They're good to go. I do modify jerk baits a lot. I modify jerk baits a ton. But my crankbaits, no. I know how everyone runs. I know what everyone is supposed to do. So I'm very effective with it. It's like golf clubs, I know if I'm fishing this type of structure, this type of depth, I know which club I'm grabbing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't want to monkey with that. It took me too long to figure all this crap out to start changing it.
Yeah.
I do understand the difference between butyrate baits and ABS baits. I understand the sound differences. So no, I don't do too much to them. I mean, I paint the crap out of them, but I don't do. That's about it.
Yeah. All right. A couple other things people have brought up. One, I think we mentioned this and talked a little bit about it last week. How was it? How cool was it to watch KVD crank all those fish last week in his win?
Yeah, dude, that was special. I mean, that was real special. That's where I live, and to see, and he's so good at it. He's one of the best on the planet at it, and to see him actually get it done, doing that was priceless to me. I mean, I know him and we go way back. So it means a lot more to me than probably the casual observer. But I thought it was fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, we are working on getting him on the show during the BPT event that's taking place, I believe at the St. Lawrence River, not next week, but the week after. Spoke to Sherry and then also working with our man Joe Opager, and we're going to try and set something up to where we get Kevin on here in a couple weeks. So that's the plan on that.
That'll be a good show.
Now, the other one is we had Chris Jones on Tuesday.
Fantastic dude, by the way.
Yeah, great stuff. There is a new swim jig coming out, and I thought we were going to talk about that, but you are going to dive deep into that in a future show.
Absolutely. The Mobster Swim Jig by Booyah is a very fantastic design swim jig, and I have to talk about this because it addressed so many problems with swim jigging, and this bait is so versatile. I'm not going to get into it now, but there's so many different ways to fish a swim jig. And this bait makes it that much easier and makes it that much better. So we are going to go into it, and it'll be in depth because I'm going to show you some things that I don't think a lot of people understand about a swim jig. One of the biggest bags I ever caught in my life was on a swim jig in Arkansas. I don't even know how big the limit was, but let's just say this. I had some 8s, some 9s, and an 11. On a swim jig, fishing it, not a traditional way of fishing a swim jig, and not at all. And it's gonna, now, conversely, I mean, that kind of bite doesn't happen all the time. You got to be in the right place. But we have to get into this bait. It's the Mobster Swim Jig by Booyah, and we have to get into it because weed guard's perfect. The weed guard's the perfect softness. It's the perfect angle. The head design is so money. I can't even tell you, and I'll tell you why, and I'll show you why. So it'll be fun. I'm trying to do a video with it. The unfortunate thing for me is we're already getting into summer, and a lot of our lakes here in the summer don't lend themselves good to swim jigs. So I might have to go down to the Ohio River or somewhere where I can have a good shallow bite going. But I'm going to try to get it done for you guys because it's special. Now here's another thing people don't understand. And here I'm going into a swim jig thing, and I don't want to, but I fish the swim jig in the winter a lot up here.
Really?
Yeah, I fish it pretty much exactly how I fish in Flash Mob Jr. And and this bait lets that swim bait oscillate the whole entire jig when it's swimming, and it's money, dude.
Nice. All right, something to look forward to there. All right, Matt, anything else, man?
Good.
What are you looking at? You buying stuff?
Yeah, I'm browsing. I'm over on Tackle Warehouse looking at all the different types of stuff.
Buying stuff. He's spending money, Frank.
No, I ain't buying stuff.
Shame on you, dude. You need to
I
be
was
on.
looking at
You need to be on LureNet buying stuff. Look at Tackle Warehouse and buy on LureNet.
Well,
and remember,
everything's sold out every time you mention something on LureNet.
and remember,
I got one.
That's right. You got one.
You got to just say something about a pink crappie crankbait or something. Just see if it.
Oh,
just to test the market.
I actually, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this. I actually.
You stumped it.
I can't say it.
All right, don't say it, Frank.
I can't say it.
All right, save it. Save it for something else.
But here, remember, go LureNet. LureNet's not just a place to buy tackle, guys. There's instructional videos on it. It's a place that you could go and actually see something and learn something. All of my videos that are on LureNet YouTube are instructional videos, and you're going to see a lot of what I talked about today with the crankbait fishing. You're going to see on the crankbait video that's going to release, and the Topwater video released yesterday or the day before yesterday. You need to watch that because that's going on right this minute. Mm-hmm. So you need to watch that, and then that's going to be a perfect prelude into the crankbait show because I am actually following these fish out. So you'll see it. It'll be clear to you when you watch it.
It's good stuff.
All right. That will wrap things up. All right, folks. next week. All right. No show on Monday. Matt and I have a meeting.
Uh-oh.
All right. On the Texas-Oklahoma border, there's a meeting taking place. All right. It's a budget meeting. We have a meeting on Monday.
We're going to see if that striper can budge that topwater when it hits it. It's a budget meeting.
Yeah.
It's a budget meeting.
Yeah.
Budget.
All right. Then on Tuesday, the one-on-one between Matthew and myself will take place. Wednesday, we will have in studio John Sukup, who's been on fire on the MPFL. We'll talk about that, talk about the bass tank, and then on Thursday, Frank will be back with day 4, and we will continue this thing next week. But got a couple of things to take care of on Monday and Tuesday, and we will get back into the swing on Wednesday. All right, as usual, Frank, fantastic job. The fans love him some Frank Scalish, and some of the knowledge and information that you are passing along is priceless. So thank you so much for your dedication to day 4 and helping all the fans out there catch more fish. So good stuff, and we will be back on Wednesday. Anything else, Frank?
Thanks, guys.
Should be about a week. After this next week, I got to get it set up with the printing company. The store will be open. There will be 100 BTL Day 4 with Frank Scalish shirts available. Once 100 have been ordered, they will no longer be available. So we'll keep you up to date as to when exactly the BTL store will be back open for another week, so you can jump on and grab your BTL Day 4 shirt.
Boy, you only put 100 out there, man. You don't have a lot of confidence in day 4.
Limited run.
We're
only putting 100 of them. My favorite color is 7 shirts, too.
Outstanding.
Yeah. All right, that's coming up. All right, last thing real quick. Frank, you got a big announcement. We were going to make that announcement on Monday. We will do it next week on Wednesday.
Perfect.
Right.
That means I get to fish this week. Yay.
Yes. All right. So Wednesday, big announcement from Frank on a project that is going to launch here very, very quickly. It's great stuff. It's all about the fans, and can't wait to let everybody know about what Frank has going on with this new project. So good stuff. Find out on Wednesday. Matt, we'll see what happens on Tuesday, dude. I'm definitely the underdog again.
Don't even start that now.
All right, Frank, be safe, man. Have a great weekend, folks. We will talk to you on Wednesday. That's it. We're out of here.